Minister, here we go again, wishing the Senior Minister was here, acknowledging your bona fides, and I think it has come to the point where the Green Party have to make a decision. What is the figure of homelessness where that you will recognise that the housing policy is utterly failing? What is that figure? Because the figure for today and this debate is 10,975 people recorded homeless. 3,342 are children, and that figure is going up. And that doesn't record the homelessness of people surfing on couches or people in refuges and so on. And so I listened carefully to the Minister's speech, and indeed in the TD as well beside him at the time. And it was at Sinn Féin, and I want to thank Sinn Féin for bringing the motion and the opportunity to speak on it. And the whole gist of the Minister's argument was a to and fro back to Sinn Féin on a level that wouldn't, I was going to say schoolboys, but I'd only be insulting schoolboys, as opposed to dealing with the issue. Housing for all is housing for some. Rebuilding Ireland was rebuilding it in the name of the developers. And the result of failed policies is what we have now. And so the figures, the homeless figures I've mentioned, this email telling me the person is on the list since January 2010. That's over 12 years, going into the 13th year in January, waiting for a house. And the response of the council is simply, due to shortage of accommodation, they have no idea when that family will be housed. And ahead of her or him, whoever it is, 150 to 200 on the east side, and on the west side 150 to 200 households ahead of that person, 12 years waiting. And then in Galway City we set up a task force, which I welcomed at the time. I have no idea what they're doing other than getting presentations. They were to give an annual report. Maybe the Minister could confirm tonight whether that urgent task force has ever given an annual report on the situation in Galway. We have the Simon locked out of the market, continuously telling us that the situation is getting worse and worse. Not a single house is available in Galway City under the discretionary scheme or the original HAP scheme. I have repeatedly pointed out, and then the Minister stands up and engages in this to and fro without, it's an insult to those people who are waiting for housing, a failure to acknowledge that it's the very policy of this government and previous governments that have created this mess by treating homes as a commodity to be bought and sold and traded on the national and international markets. And if there's any doubt, and the second thing then is to blame objectors. I don't look at people making submissions in relation to housing as objectors. Indeed, in the environment area, they have really saved us along with the courts. So people are entitled to make submissions, and the planning system should be sufficiently robust and sufficiently resourced that it should be able to deal with those submissions in a space of time that's reasonable and adequate, and a decision made. So when we have a senior minister with almost 12,000 people homeless telling us it's the cause of the objectors, there's a serious dilemma for a Green Party here. And I don't like to go down that route, but I'm really, since 2016, over and over, along with my colleagues, appealing to successive ministers, please declare an emergency, acknowledge there's a housing emergency, and let's do something about it in terms of public housing on public land, not this hypocrisy about mixture of tenure. I think it's actually disgraceful, the inbuilt snobbery that's going on in relation to housing. Public housing on public land. Deal with the waiting list and then extend the limits in terms of income so that lots of people can avail of the houses. Proudly, the government should be part in the market, balancing the market and bringing down the prices. It's an insult to talk about affordable housing. This concept is nuts. It bears no relationship to what the average person is earning. So what we want is a declaration of an emergency, housing on public land. In Galway, we have a ridiculous situation where the docks are doing their own deal with the Land Development Agency. Kent Station is doing something else. Sandy Road is doing something else. And there is no overall master plan for the common good that sets out what's necessary in Galway. It doesn't exist. And then we go to HAP. Fine Gael and Labour that brought it in. Now, any of us can make a mistake, but there's no acknowledgement by Labour or Fine Gael that they ever made a mistake with the housing assistance payment that became the only game in town. And in case there's any misunderstanding about that, the Olus magazine, and again, I'm not given to quoting names, but this is the Olus magazine going back to 2017, where members of the department were falling over themselves to congratulate themselves on this wonderful scheme. Landlord payments are growing at over 1 million per month, while the rent run is increasing by 150,000 per month. And they go on to say it's a fantastic scheme. The housing agency's Jimmy Bainham believes that HAP is making a real and positive difference in helping to address Ireland's social housing challenges, and so on. And many more names are quoted. I wonder where those people are now. And I wonder what the two parties are saying that brought it in relation to the HAP. That's now well over $1 billion, or whatever the figure is, because at this stage it's monopoly money, while the housing crisis grows and grows. And then we have the Minister telling us the Help to Buy scheme. Sinn Féin have failed to appreciate, and we fail to appreciate how good the Help to Buy scheme is. 4 times its cost. These are the 3rd or 4th report. Mazars tell us the scheme promotes demand for a new housing in a market where the problems that exist are unequivocally supply constraints. It has cost 4 times more than was anticipated, and indeed the Department of Finance failed to make proper projections in relation to it. 1/3 of the people availing of that the Minister has praised didn't need help with their deposit. And so on, Minister. It has come to a point where, honestly, one could despair. But those out there on the streets and those in hotels and various B&Bs with no hope need us to give them hope.